we'll kick this off. I am trying to, there we go. I am Jeff. I've been with Imaginet for right at 17 years now. Been in the industry for 30. Don't let the picture scare you. It's not as bad as it looks. I am a Revit certified instructor. I also do a lot with Plant 3D, Navisworks, and we are very, very, very much involved with all the Leica software, whether it's CloudWorks or Cyclone Register 360, through Cyclone 3DR, the list goes on. We work with all of that particular software and getting it implemented into our daily routine. Looking at this, kind of a quick overview agenda. Again, this is kind of back to the basics of what the RTC can do. Every once in a while, we see folks out there asking generic questions, whether it be on forums, whether it be on LinkedIn, emails. We get questions all the time. So we thought we'd just spend a few minutes just to kind of reiterate and re-hit where the scanner applies. So we'll go through the introduction, the operation, comparisons, different scan uses, potentials. And this is, like I said, this is one place where if you have something that is not up here, throw it in the chat. That'd be great to see. Data processing, and then what do we do with the data? That's a big question we always get. What do we do with it? We got all this great data, but what do we do with it? So let's dive in. So first things first, like I said, 2018, Leica rolled out the RTC. To me, it was kind of a cool rollout, but then we started getting into it and using it. Man, it was strong. It was fast. It was accurate. It was ease. The ease of use is phenomenal. And it's just as simple and easy to use today as it was then. They've added features where I can now use data encrypting on the unit so that I can use it and encrypt my data. That's been out about a year and a half or so. That's a great tool. It opens up a lot of doors. It's just as fast now as it was then, and it's also portable. People go, oh, scanners are never portable. Yeah, they are. I need a book bag, which handles the charger, the batteries, the iPad, or Android device, the thumb drives, the unit, and the tripod. I've taken our unit on many airplanes, and it does slide right into the overhead. Takes up a little extra space, but nobody can complain. Like I said, backpack, the tripod, it's durable. You'll notice that most all Leica units, all of them are built out of aluminum, not plastic, and that makes that unit much more durable. There's no SD cards. There is a thumb drive. You get two 256 gig thumb drives, and I can tell you from personal experience, you can't really fill that up in a day. We've scanned in presentations of big box stores where we've done 550 scans in 8 or 10 hours, 12 hours, and the thumb drive was a half full. I always tell people that I will never be able to outwork the RTC in a single day. With pictures, without pictures, it's just, you're going to get tired before it does. Flexibility of operation. So there's 3 ways that I can control this unit, okay? I can, if I'm in a secure environment and some environments do not allow me to use Wi-Fi, fine. I can not use the Wi-Fi and I can just do what I call press button scanning, touch screen scanning. I set the unit up. Everything can be controlled from the user interface of that scanner. Notice that it's very simplistic. There are basically 3 settings: density, photographs, yes or no, and vis system, yes or no. Density, how much, what density is it going to collect at a fixed distance? There's 1/2 inch at 30 feet. There's 1/4 inch at 30 feet. There's 1/8 inch at 30 feet. Do you want pictures? Those are 5 bracket HDR images. They're phenomenal images. Do you want to take pictures? Yes or no? This system is the last icon. That's my visual inertial tracking, my visual tracking. It's going to track where I'm at in that space. As I move forward, it's continuing to track where I'm at. That's going to assist in putting together the registration on the iPad so that when I import that data is mostly registered. Now catch what I said, mostly registered. You still, as the person in charge, should verify and check your registration. We make mistakes. Maybe I combined 2 scans that they didn't have enough overlap. You are required to check it. But our fill time is cut down significantly by the amount of time that we say that scanner is going so fast. We're also cutting down, in my opinion, by 1/3 how much time we're spending back in the office registering that data, because it's coming in. We're able to do that in the field on our iPad or Android device as we go. So even though when I'm push button scanning on the screen of the scanner, it's still keeping track and it's still putting and positioning that data for my registration. When I import it, it's going to register it for me. It's going to be there. The next thing is I could use an iPad Pro. Yes, it has to be an iPad Pro. I do not need, terabytes of storage space on the iPad. It can just be, I think now the smallest iPad you can buy, don't quote me, I think it might be 256 or 512 gigs. That's all you need. I can also use your iPhone. I have an iPhone Pro Max 15. I use it all the time to control the scanner, mainly because, well, I'm kind of lazy and I don't want to carry an iPad around all day. You guys understand, if you've done any scanning, it can get kind of heavy. So I use my iPhone a lot. I can also use an Android tablet. So at any point in time, I've got 3 different ways to be able to work with that unit. All of this ties back into the Cyclone Field 360 app. And there's a tremendous amount of stuff that we can do with this app now. This app has, in my opinion, has come probably the furthest in the way of scanning software. Being able to control the scanner, be able to, not only control it, but to do on-site registration. Case in point, I was on a job site with a customer doing a presentation, and they were like, we want to go to this area. So we went and did this area, and they're like, we need to jump over here, and then we want to come back because we want to test the Viz system and how good it works. So we were able to jump from one side of the building to the other. You got about 2.5 minutes to walk. We scanned it, worked our way back a couple scans. The Viz kept track of where we were, and all of that shows on the iPad. I was able to register all that data together without having to manually do extra scans. It knew where I was going, or it knew where I was, and we worked back, all registered together within 1/8 of an inch. Also coming in, it's going to, it permits us to, the Field 360 app is going to give us the opportunity to add intelligent data. Things like geotags, which can be, go up to an air handling unit, take a picture of the nameplate, attach that nameplate metadata to the actual air handler in the point cloud scan. Now I'm capturing all this, intelligent information. I'm sending less people to the field. Yes, 100% it's going to take you a little longer because you're adding so much data. You're adding more information than just scanning. Now I'm capturing, if I open up an electrical panel, I scan it, I take a picture of the nameplate and the incoming service. I take a picture of the breaker information. That's something that, as an engineer that I've done before. We've had to go out and manually write that stuff down, or, you know, started this business before the whole cell phone thing, but we'd always try to take them out and go photocopy them somewhere. That way we wouldn't have to write them down. But that information is always needed. Now I can take a picture of it, attach it to that panel, move on to the next one. All that data is always in that point cloud. We can do images, videos, text, voice recordings. We can also acquire the targets. So if you're using targets, let's say I'm doing survey control and I want to set my building to survey control, or if you have things inside of a facility, 4 markers, 4 boxes, things like that you want to identify, set a target on it, I can acquire that target from the app now. One of the coolest things that the app has done over the past 2 years or so is the whole, man, LiDAR scanning on my iPhone. Wow, it's freaking amazing. It is. But the problem is getting good data scaled, put in, and being able to have a usable format. Well, now I can set up the scanner, do a scan, and let's say there's a piece of equipment that I didn't get one side of, but I don't feel like moving the scanner around there and running another scan. I can go in and add LiDAR scan from the iPad or the iPhone Pros that have it, current users, current models. I can go use that iPad Field 360 app. I set it up, I do the scan with the iPad, and Field 360 is going to tie it together, scale it correctly, get it correctly positioned to the RTC data. So it's, you know, it's supplemental. It is not meant in any way to replace the scanner. You're never going to get the accuracy of an iPad scan compared to an RTC scan. It's just, that's not going to do it. But I can use it, supplement it, and add very small parts and pieces. I always tell people the best way to do that is I always revert back to processing engineering, MEP. You know, I'm scanning a mechanical room and there's the backside of a boiler and it's got the gas train coming into it. Maybe I didn't get all of it. So I'll set it up, I'll hit go on the iPad and I'll reach back there because it's kind of tight space, you know, couldn't get the scanner back there, but I can go up high with the iPad and get just the little bit more data that I might need to complete that scan. So that is a fantastic tool. A lot of people go, oh, we're going to use that a bunch. Come to find out, a lot of people use it more than I thought they would. I'll be honest with you. It's used a tremendous, tremendous amount. Moving on. So how does it stack up? To this day, it's still one of the fastest scanners on the market. All right. For it to be an all-inclusive unit, meaning it's got all the cameras built into the unit. They're not accessories on top or on the sides. With the accuracy of the scans, there's really nothing that can come close. And there's other scanners. I'm not gonna scanner bash. It's just not in my forte to do. But you know, there's external cameras that you can get to speed other scanners up. That's great. That means you got to have more of a back-end process because you got to process those photographs. I've talked to users of competitor scanners that have used the RTC and used competitors, and they vouch that it's still one of the fastest on the market. The Leica workflow, I will stand toe-to-toe and competition the Leica workflow when it comes to the software to anybody. The software Register 360 is multi-threaded, which means it is using as many processors as you could throw at it. As much RAM, video card. It was rewritten for the purpose of being the fastest, most accurate software. I haven't found anything yet that can import and bring in that data accurately like the RTC. From a scanning standpoint, We've heard competitors go, there's no way that it does it in 1:51. It takes like 6 minutes. I'm here to tell you that's false. That is false information. Don't believe it. I have done several 100,000 scans with the RTC, and it consistently is what it says. All right. When people say, well, scanning, how long does it take? Well, are you talking about from start to stop, or are you talking start to start? If I'm doing a facility, I'll tell you that if you want to guesstimate or estimate time at a facility, I tell people 3 minutes, because and I use round numbers because I don't like doing math. And 1:51, we'll say 2 minutes to scan. That gives you a minute to move it to the next location and hit go. If I'm just doing one scan, it's 1:51, less than 2 minutes. That also depends on your settings. On the highest settings, which would be an 1/8 inch density with the 5-bracket HDR, we're talking 2 minutes and 42 seconds. Great scan, significant time savings. Again, I've mentioned this a couple times, but I can use it on Apple, iOS, or Android devices. I'm an Apple guy. It is what it is. I've had more success out of using the Apple than the Android. It's just, to me, it's just faster. But one thing that's key about that is I can use iPad or Android. I don't have to have a specialized tablet. All right. There are some scanners on the market that they suggest or require you to have a very specific tablet. A tablet's very, very, very expensive. A lot more than an iPad or Android tablet. Now, this is where I'm going to give you some common uses. So we'll come in here, factories. Notice that the RTC does a phenomenal job at stainless steel. I've seen a lot of scanners on the market from all brands, makes, models, including some Leica, that doesn't capture stainless steel as good as this. I've used Faro, I've used Trimble, and when it comes to stainless steel, I haven't seen a scanner collect that data better than what it captures. It's by all means, hands down, it is the best when capturing stainless steel. Fuel, oil, and gas, food manufacturing, things like that. It's a great, great tool. The other one, houses. Got some architects online, I bet. One of the things, if somebody wants to do a renovation on a house, we're going to knock out some walls, we're going to add an addition. Instead of taking a tape measure and pen and paper, I can take a scan. Go scan it. That house that you see scanned there took about 25 to 30 minutes to scan inside and out. Who on this call could measure that entire house inside and out, understanding where all the roof penetrations are, understanding where all the vents are for the house, the crawl space, in 25 minutes? That includes not having to go back out and remeasure it. Those of us on this call that have gone out and done hand measurements before, we always know there's a strong possibility we're going to have to remeasure. It is what it is. So, homes, buildings, if I've got to go in there, the particular building that you're seeing there, the contractor was like, well, we need to measure all this, but it's just, can we scan it? Would it be faster? So we said, sure. So we worked with them, did a little presentation, and that's about 2.5, 3 days worth of scanning and processing. Very, very quickly able to go in, get the exterior, the interior of all those spaces, and they were able to overlay that with the Revit model and do some coordination. So again, commercial buildings, homes, even roadways and intersections. All right. I'll tell you, this is not survey grade scanner, but that doesn't mean that we can't use it in a survey environment. If I've got control, I can set my control up using the targets. We laser scan using the RTC. I'm able to go in, find those targets, find my control, register my point cloud to control. Now I'm set to that control. Now I'm, within that survey grade tolerance. When we mean survey grade, that means I can traverse with the scanner, foresight, backsight, closed loop traverse, off and running. I can't do that with an RTC. But again, how many screwdrivers do you have in your toolbox? We generally speaking don't have one because there's different size screws. The next one is something that we've come to understand there's a lot of need. Ship hulls. We do a lot of work with a couple different organizations throughout North America, all of North America, where they'll send a ship out, they'll come back, and there's a big dent in it. Hit something. What is that? Is that within tolerance? So we're able to go in, scan it with the RTC, create a mesh, create a surface, and do a deviation on that surface. Other uses, underground vaults. There's times where getting down in an underground vault, whether it be a steam vault in the middle of Denver highway, or whether it's an electrical vault for AEP or Dominion or Duke or SDG&E, there's a ton of vaults all over. You walk on them over every day. You don't realize it. There's times where those have to be surveyed. Well, instead of having to get a confined space permit or get down in that vault, I can get a tripod, lower the RTC, do one scan, call it a day. I've scanned that entire vault, and I haven't had to put anybody in that. And that doesn't mean just vaults. That could be tanks. You got to get a confined space permit to get inside of a tank. If the tank's completely empty, I can get an adapter, lower the RTC down, let it scan the inside of the tank, use Leica software to do a tank analysis. Maybe that's something you are required to do and you've never thought about using laser scanning. Now you need to think about that. That is something that we are able to do. Remodeling. Great. Again, going back to the house I mentioned a while ago, if I'm having to redo it or I'm adding to it, I don't want to field measure that. I want to get in and get out as quick as I can. Laser scanning it, going to help you do those remodels. Pre, post construction comparisons. One thing that we see this used a tremendous amount, I'll be honest, I'll be selfish and wished it was used more, is during construction. I've got all the rebar. I'm building from the ground up. It's 10-story. I've got pipe and duct and conduit cable tray and everything else going from the ground floor up. Maybe it's coming from the roof down. Before I pour that concrete slab, why don't I scan it with all the rebar and all the floor penetrations, compare it to the model, and see if my penetrations are correct or not. There's software that Leica has where I can do one area, scan the whole thing, do a single scan, and take it into the viewer and run an analysis on it, and it tells me that information. So I would like to see a lot of that, a lot more of that. It's becoming popular. The other thing is, if we laser scan it, I'm able to see where that's at, where all that rebar is at. So, you know, I scan it before the pour. We make sure everything's right. I scan it after the pour. I combine those two. Wow, that's called an as-built, a very accurate as-built. So now I see the floor, all of the rebar, all of the floor penetrations, and then now I can overlay that Revit model or that AutoCAD drawing and start to see, make sure everything lines up, but I'm also collecting that data for an as-built condition. Floor flatness. This is also one of those things where, you know, there's an industry out there that does nothing but floor flatness. Being able to go in there with a scanner. Let's say I've got a CT machine and a hospital. They have a very specific tolerance on what that floor needs to be. Go in there, do a couple scans, identify your zero, do an analysis based on that point cloud. Very, very easy to do. Yeah, I say very, very easy, but let's be clear. It takes a little bit of work. You know, it's not just a snap of the fingers, you import, snap the finger, and it's done. You still have to do a little bit of work. You got to set it up. There's things that you have to do. But doing a floor analysis or floor flatness on, you know, 5 or 6, 10,000 square feet should only take you maybe 15 or 20 minutes, if that. So floor flatness, floor levelness, even wall deviations, very similar to the floor flatness. Getting into ADA ramp compliance, making sure those are what they need to be, following the guidelines that are set forth. Mine work. Not sure if we have anyone on the call that does mine work, but again, you know, anything that has to do with safety, getting into, you know, scanning the walls of the mine. Think another one is pit mining, you know, looking at scanning the inside of a pit, whether it's downtown Chicago, New York, where they're building a high rise, they got everything shored up, scan it each week, do a deviation analysis to make sure those walls aren't leaning in, make sure we're kind of monitoring analysis, you know, making sure that we're doing safety. Same thing with mine work comes into play. And then crime scene investigation. This is not something that Imagine It gets into a lot, but crime scene investigation is a big deal. You know, you want to get in, scan that scene, you know, whether it's a car crash or something more tragic. We want to scan it, get an understanding, capture that reality, and secure it. This is one that we're also seeing comes into play. Movie studio work. It's funny, I had a conversation about 2 weeks ago with a movie studio that they'll have a scene set up and they want to be able to digitize it. So they want to be able to laser scan it and replicate that in a digital world. So now they are able to go in, scan that scene or scan that set, create it as a mesh, and use that in various softwares. That's used a lot in video games lately. Moving on to data processing. This has grown up a lot. The amount of data that the software can handle, the speed at which it handles it, and the efficiency that it handles it. You know, one of the complaints we always hear is, oh, I got to have a really strong laptop. You need a strong laptop, absolutely. But you don't need super. Now, if you can get super, get it. It just makes it better. You know, we always want more. But being able to take that data directly off the scanner from the thumb drive, plug it into the computer, copy it. I don't have to have any special device, any special cable. I don't have to have any of that. I just plug it in, start the import process. If done correctly, keyword, correctly. You know, it comes down to education. If you're taught the right way to use this data, which is a very simplistic class, we're talking that data should come in 85 to 90, even 95% registered. You still need to check it. You still need to be the person that is in charge of that data. You need to take ownership of it. You need to make sure that it does what it says that you say it. Let me start over. It does what you tell it to do. Okay, we are human. I'll leave it at that. The other thing with Register 360, it is very simplistic to use. There's not a lot of multiple tools. There's not a lot of cumbersome user interface. I mean, there's basically 4 tabs: import, process, finalize, publish. There's your 4 tabs. The main areas that we work on are import. It's about 5 settings. We hit go. Importing, once it's imported, then that's where we can go in, work with the software. We've always heard, getting into this industry, for every 1 day you scan, it's about 1 day of processing. I strongly disagree with that. I will argue that point, and I will prove that point wrong day in and day out, because Register 360 is that good of a piece of software. Cleaning the data used to take hours upon hours upon hours. It could still take hours if you let it. Leica has phenomenal tools like detect moving objects that are going to go through and do comparison of scans, and anything that moves between scans is going to flag it. Once it flags that data, you can go in and say, yep, remove that, yep, remove that, yep, remove that. You have control. Or you can just say, you know what? I'm going to trust software. Just get everything that removed, or everything that moved, just remove it all. Because, you know, people standing in the way of the scans, etc. The other thing is, you know, being able to publish out. We can, with Register 360, you can publish out to pretty much any standard format. The LGSX file, which is Leica's proprietary file, that is the best. It's the smallest point cloud file you will work with. That contains all of the scanner data setup. It contains all the photographs and all the points. Typically, we see that file being between 50 and 60, 50 and 65, 70% smaller than any other file on the market. When you view that data in AutoCAD or in Navisworks or in Revit using the CloudWorks tool, you see 100% of the data, 100% of the time. So many times I open up a 50, 60, even 100 gig, even a 200 gig point cloud in AutoCAD or Revit using the CloudWorks. People go, wow, that's super fast. That's right. CloudWorks is meant to handle and manipulate that point cloud data. I always tell people, when a software is purposely written to handle a task or a group of tasks, it typically works very well. The only thing CloudWorks is to do, manipulate and work with that data. That means it's taking the hard work away from Autodesk software in managing that point cloud. The Leica software is managing it. So, but some people, we have to go to recap. It is what it is. If I'm a manufacturer, I'm using Inventor, I have to use recap. Great. We can take that file type, the RCP file, we can create it straight from the Register 360 software, push it out, ready to go. Looking at this, I kind of touched on it just now, but now that we've got all this data, what do we use it for? Oh man, where could we not use it? Let's see. Take it into Autodesk applications using CloudWorks. If I use CloudWorks for AutoCAD, I can, cut sections, view different views. I can do surfaces. I can do points on grid for your civil, your COGO points. I can create 2D floor plans by slicing the floor or slicing the point cloud and using the floor plan tool to click on the points. These are walls, puts them in for me. If I take it up a level and I want to use it in Revit, again, I bring it into Revit, which is a phenomenal program, but let's be honest, it is a new construction software, not an existing condition software. And everybody's kind of chuckling because you know I'm right. Will it work? Absolutely, 100%. But it doesn't like lines slightly off, kilter, etc. So we can use the floor plan tool, the same floor plan tool that's in AutoCAD. I find those walls, I hit send it. Once I do, it says, hey, Revit's a three-dimensional software. You need to, what walls do you want these? So I tell it what wall type, and it converts those lines automatically to Revit walls. The Revit walls that are in your template, that are in your project, that are made by you, that you are going to use. So you are in control of what you put in. Key word there, you. This software is simply giving us the opportunity to extract. It is extracting it, but you are telling it what to extract. Navisworks, I can take it into Navisworks. It's a very simplistic tool. It will allow me to do clash and anti-clash, which is going to say, hey, everything that touches or everything that doesn't. I can choose either way, set up like you normally would in Navisworks, let it run that clash detection. Also, we can take it into Cyclone 3DR. I could spend a whole session on Cyclone 3DR. In fact, I think we have. Not too long ago, we did a session on Cyclone 3DR. If you haven't watched it, I recommend you do that. We can do road analysis, we can do curb and gutters, we can do piping, we can do a tremendous amount of model extraction, model analysis with that software. It is a great, great tool. It's not meant for everyone, but it's meant for a lot of you. All right, so I am done. And at this point, I am going to turn it over to my great, great dear friend, Lori, and we'll do some Q&A.